Breaking. Trump SDUNS courtroom with unexpected move. The courtroom was completely silent. Reporters filled every seat, cameras lined the back wall, and tension hung thick in the air. It was supposed to be just another routine hearing, another day in a long series of legal battles that had already dominated headlines for months. But nobody in that room was prepared for what was about to happen. As the judge adjusted his glasses and began reviewing the case documents, whispers spread quietly among the audience. Some observers leaned forward, sensing something unusual. Even the attorneys seated at their tables appeared more tense than usual. Then the doors opened. All eyes turned at once. Donald Trump entered the courtroom slowly, surrounded by security and legal advisors. His expression was calm, almost unreadable. He didn't look at the reporters. He didn't acknowledge the cameras. He walked straight to his seat and sat down without saying a word. The judge cleared his throat and called the room to order. For several minutes, the hearing proceeded normally. Lawyers presented routine arguments, referenced legal precedents, and debated procedural details. It seemed like this would be another predictable session. But then, something unexpected happened. Trump suddenly leaned forward, whispered something to his attorney, and stood up. The room froze. It was not his scheduled time to speak. In fact, everyone knew this was unusual. Even the judge paused mid-sentence, looking directly at him. Trump requested permission to address the court. For a brief moment, nobody moved. The tension was so thick you could almost feel it. The judge hesitated, then nodded. And that's when everything changed. Trump stepped forward slowly, his voice calm but firm. He began speaking about the long legal process, describing what he called a moment that would define more than just a single case. His words were measured. Every sentence seemed carefully chosen. He talked about public perception, political pressure, and the impact of constant legal battles on national conversations. He said the situation had grown beyond a courtroom issue and had become something larger, something symbolic. The audience listened in complete silence. Even reporters stopped typing. Then came the moment that stunned everyone. Trump reached into a folder and removed a stack of documents. He placed them on the table and said they represented information that, according to him, had never been fully discussed in open court. The judge leaned forward. Lawyers on both sides exchanged quick, nervous glances. Nobody had expected new materials to appear at this stage. The judge asked for clarification. Trump explained that the documents contained timelines, communications, and records he believed would shift how the case was viewed. He insisted they were critical to understanding the full picture. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. One reporter later described the atmosphere as electric. The judge called for a brief recess to review the situation. As everyone stood and the room erupted into quiet chatter, legal analysts immediately began speculating. Some believed this was a strategic move designed to reshape the narrative. Others thought it might trigger new legal challenges. Outside the courthouse, crowds had already gathered. Supporters and critics held signs, waiting for updates. News channels prepared emergency broadcasts. Inside, attorneys debated rapidly. When the session resumed, the judge addressed the court with a serious tone. He acknowledged that the unexpected development required careful evaluation and stated that the materials would need to be reviewed thoroughly before any decisions could be made. The hearing was then temporarily postponed. As Trump left the courtroom, cameras flashed nonstop. Reporters shouted questions, but he did not respond. He walked calmly to his vehicle and departed. Within minutes, the story exploded across media networks. Headlines described it as a dramatic turning point. Commentators argued over what it could mean for the case, for public opinion, and for the broader political landscape. Some analysts said it showed confidence. Others suggested it was a calculated attempt to control the narrative. Social media erupted with reactions. Supporters praised the move as bold and strategic. Critics questioned its timing and significance. Legal experts debated late into the night. Some pointed out that introducing unexpected information during a hearing can dramatically change the direction of a case. Others emphasized that courts rely on strict procedures, and any new materials would face intense scrutiny. Meanwhile, speculation continued. What exactly was in those documents? Would they be accepted into the official record? Could they alter the outcome of the legal process? Nobody had clear answers yet. But one thing was certain. What had started as an ordinary courtroom session had transformed into one of the most talked-about legal moments in recent memory. And as the nation waited for the next development, one question echoed everywhere. What happens next? In the days that followed, the unexpected courtroom moment continued to dominate national conversations. News channels replayed the footage repeatedly, analyzing every detail, from the timing of Trump's decision to stand to the expressions on the faces of the judge and attorneys. Legal experts filled television panels, offering sharply different interpretations. Some argued that the move showed careful planning. They believed it was designed to shift public attention and introduce doubt into an already complex case. Others said it was risky. They pointed out that courts operate under strict rules, and any new documents would need to go through thorough verification before being considered relevant. If the materials failed to meet legal standards, they could be dismissed entirely. Meanwhile, inside legal circles, discussions grew intense. Attorneys across the country debated the strategy. Law professors used the situation as a real-time case study for their students. Social media platforms flooded with opinions, theories, and predictions about what the next court session might bring. Supporters described the moment as bold and decisive. Critics called it a dramatic attempt to influence public perception. But regardless of viewpoint, nearly everyone agreed on one thing: the hearing had changed the atmosphere surrounding the case. Behind closed doors, court officials began reviewing the submitted materials. The process was slow and meticulous. Each document had to be verified for authenticity. Timelines had to be checked. Communications referenced in the records needed confirmation from multiple sources. Legal analysts explained that this stage could take weeks, depending on the complexity of the information. During this waiting period, tension continued to build. Every small update became breaking news. Even minor statements from legal representatives generated headlines. At one point, a brief comment from a court spokesperson simply confirming that review procedures are ongoing sparked hours of speculation across media outlets. The public remained deeply divided. Some people believed the documents would significantly influence the outcome of the case. Others were convinced they would ultimately have little legal impact. But curiosity kept growing. What exactly did the documents contain? Why had they appeared so suddenly? And why had Trump chosen that exact moment to present them? These questions fueled nonstop discussion. As the next court date approached, security preparations increased. Officials anticipated large crowds and intense media presence. On the morning of the hearing, reporters arrived before sunrise. Satellite trucks lined the streets. Cameras pointed toward the courthouse entrance, waiting for the first sign of movement. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere felt even more tense than before. Observers described it as unusually quiet. Even routine conversations between attorneys were hushed. When Trump entered once again, the room's attention immediately focused on him. This time, however, he remained seated throughout the opening proceedings. The judge began by addressing the situation directly. He explained that the submitted materials had undergone preliminary review. While some portions required further verification, others were considered relevant enough to warrant deeper examination during future hearings. This announcement triggered a wave of reactions. Supporters saw it as validation. Critics emphasized that further examination did not mean acceptance. Legal experts quickly clarified that the process was far from over. In fact, They noted that such reviews often raise new legal questions, sometimes extending cases rather than resolving them. As the session continued, attorneys from both sides presented arguments about how the materials should be handled. The discussions were technical, filled with legal terminology, procedural references, and debates over admissibility standards. To outside observers, it became clear that the case had entered a new phase. One defined not by quick developments, but by careful, methodical examination. Still, the dramatic moment from the previous hearing remained the defining image. Commentators continued referencing it as a turning point. Some even described it as one of the most unexpected courtroom interruptions in recent political history. As the hearing concluded, the judge scheduled additional sessions to continue reviewing the materials and hearing further arguments. No final decisions were announced. And once again, the courtroom emptied with more questions than answers. Outside, reporters rushed to deliver live updates. Crowds gathered around screens, eager for any hint of what might happen next. Across the nation, discussions continued late into the night. Because despite weeks of legal debate, analysis, and speculation, one truth remained unchanged. The story was far from over. And as the next chapter approached, the entire country waited, watching closely, wondering how this unprecedented courtroom drama would ultimately unfold.